Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. We're continuing into the off-season gaming stream with game number 11 on my War Room list. I did finish my list on, well, I think it was last week, I want to say. I'm trying to remember what game number 10 was. Oh, right. It wasn't Space Empires, it was the game I played after that. I can't even remember what it was, but anyway, I am officially finished with my list for this year, but I did want to put the last two games on the channel. So today, we're going to take care of one of those last two games as we move over to the current Ukrainian conflict over with Russia, as we're playing Game of Drones by Historic Wings. So in this game, we're in charge of we're a drone pilot, essentially. We're actually a drone team that we have to build up, which I've taken the liberty of building that, but we're going to set up our drone team skills. So we build a four-member drone team. Of course, the pilot, who's the main character I'm controlling, is going to be some really forgettable guy, codenamed Phoenix. Navigator is just as, we'll swallow that sarcastic retort and jester. Then our sapper is Anichka, and our driver is Irina. And I'm probably butchering the two what look like Eastern European pronunciations. Hopefully not too bad on those. So that's our team, which we've got there. So now we're going to level our skills up. Let's see, as the drone pilot, yada, 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 judicious application, 3 types, okay. So now we're going to take everybody to drone school for each drone team member, okay? So we roll on table A1 for that. Let's see, A1. Let me see if I can find a bookmark here. Yeah, looks like I can use these. Looks like I can use that as a bookmark. So we're rolling on drone school over here with no modifier. So first we'll roll for Phoenix and see what kind of skill chit configuration he's got. And for that we're going to use a 2d6 roll. So let's see what we get here. I'll bring the dice tower. Actually, it looks like there's room down here that I could probably put the dice tower. Oh, look at that. That'll work nicely. And as long as I put the dice on my left side, I can reach behind the camera and slide them in like so. A 6 is an RC pilot, so that gives me... So the RC pilot, that means I will have 5 pilotage, 3 sixth sense, and 3 moxie. Now let's figure out what those actually do. Alright, so we need 5 pilotage. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh good, I can count. Alright, I'm going to need something to brace, open. Battery will do there. So our 5 pilotage charts, or chits, are for the ability to fly drones skillfully, and there's space here on the drone team chart for that. Just trying to get these all laid out. Then our 3, each of Sixth Sense and Moxie, which we've got right here. Sixth Sense lets me sense trouble and take actions to avoid anything, and Moxie will let me uphold morale in the face of Russian fire and other adversity. Okay. So Moxie and Sixth Sense. And we'll roll up everybody's skill level. First up, our Navigator, being Jester, also a 2d6 roll. Let's see, that's going to settle on an 11, so he's got a 6 skill level. So Navigator, Nav skill level goes to level 6. Then we'll roll for our Sapper's skill level. We'll see how good Anichka is at the Sapper roll, which prepares the munitions. So it looks like Jester's going to do well navigating here. Let's see how Anichka is on preparing our munitions. That's another 11. That'll be a 5 skill level. Sapper is 5. And then the driver, which seems pretty self-explanatory, getting us from point A to point B. During infiltration and exfiltration, provides security, prepares food, cares for the mascot. Oh, we're supposed to have a mascot too? Great. I am not a... Problem is, I'm not a dog person, and all of these are... Actually, strike that. We do have a cat in here. Do we set up a... Do we have a mascot right away? Or is that something we pick up later? And that might be something we pick up later. But anywho, we'll roll for our driver's skill level. Wow, a driver gets boxcars, so we're starting off with a pretty good... So we're starting off with a pretty good team. And in case we do have a... Let's see if there's something in here that explains mascots. And of course, there is not. A lot of history and background. Admittedly, that is one thing. Admittedly, the what's the word I want? An index to the rulebook is one thing. I wish Thomas would add to his book games. I really enjoy his book games. Don't get me wrong, but I wish he'd added an index if he could. I mean, it's great that he's got everything that you need to play the game, so you don't even need the counters and a lot of the historical information that goes with it. But an index is just is a very little thing that makes a lot of things so much easier to find. Mascot is Polka. I'm not sure if the A is supposed to be silent, and I can't really pronounce it that well. And now it looks like everybody's graduated from drone school. So let's see. Okay, so looking at the types of drones, these are our various types. We've got MAV, Matrix, Classic, Baba Yaga, and Kamikaze drones. So we have 200 support points that we can use to upgrade to spend on drones. Use these to acquire upgraded equipment and drones. Which is probably back here on one of these tables. Or not. Okay, I wonder if... It's probably on the... No, it's not. I was thinking it might have been on the chits in here, but it's actually not on the chits in here, which is not good. Let's see. So where does it specify? Consult table B3. Never mind. Let's see. B3. Here we go. So it actually is in here. It helps. It apparently helps to actually read through everything. So never mind that plan. Let's see. So the first thing we probably need here is let's see, support point costs and... Okay, so I am going to grab a dial actually as well. Once I decide what vehicle I'm going to buy, that's going to determine how many weight points I have. So I do have a few vehicle options here. I could take a Toyota Stout, a Nissan Patrol GR. Looking here, a Toyota Land Cruiser or a Mitsubishi L200. I think for now... Yikes, those are expensive. And there's a vehicle repair cost as well. So I think we're going to start off with a Toyota Stout. So we'll take a Toyota Stout for 100 VP. Or 100 SP, I should say. Okay, I definitely don't want the Baba Yaga drone right away. So with the Toyota Stout in mind, that gives me 6. So that'll give me 60 weight units that I can take on, and each drone will have a weight unit cost with them, plus 0 survival DRM and minus 2 camo DRM. Okay. So that means I've got a weight cost of 60. And it's technically still afternoon out here, Thomas, but I'll let that get away. And yes, that I am live playing Game of Drones. Actually, right now I'm not playing anything yet. Technically, I'm still setting up my crew. And I don't know if you missed it earlier, but I was talking a little bit. I was having trouble finding some information. One thing I think I wish you would add to these game books, don't get me wrong, I really enjoy them, but I think an index, and maybe it's in some of the other ones, but I just haven't been looking for it, I think an index would be very helpful. That's one thing I like to use, especially when I'm learning a game for the very first time. I've had a few times that I've had to consult the index for other game books. Just a minor detail in the grand scheme of things, but one that was kind of bothering me a little bit. Let's see. So I've got 100 support points now that I've bought the Toyota Stout, and 60 weight points going into the Toyota Stout. Let's see here. So I think the first thing I should probably buy is my drones. Planning on putting an index into Black Flight. Good to know about that. Let's see. I'm actually going to grab another dial because once I start to dip under 100 support points, I'm going to want to be able to track that as well. So let me grab... Actually, I might be able to track that if I grab I might be able to track it even from 100. Yep, I'll be able to track that just fine from a boss dial from Marvel Champions. See? Phoenix isn't a total idiot most of the time. So this commander's spin down dial is for my weight points in the Stout. The boss dial from Marvel Champions is for the support points I have left. Let's see here. So let's see. So what do I want to do here? Again, I definitely don't want to buy the Baba Yaga drone. I don't want to dump all of my support points into that. That does not seem like a scenario that has a happy ending. Let's see what the different types of drones do. Small reconnaissance can search 3 locations. Larger reconnaissance, bomber, single-use kamikaze. So I think I'm going to limit myself right now to the MAV, Matrix, and Classic drones. I don't need any kamikaze just yet, although they're only 1 per, but I don't think I want to do any kind of kamikaze on here. Let's start off with... Let's see. What would we do? I don't want to go nuts on... Well, let's start off with 5 MAV drones. Those will cost me 3 each. So that's 15 SP, and so that's 15 SP and 10 weight units. Which brings me down to 50 weight points. And if Phoenix can do first grade math, actually this is probably about third grade math, 15 would bring me down to 85 points left. Okay. So now let's do two matrix drones. I'm sure there's some special pronunciation with the E at the end of matrix, but I'm just going to call them matrix drones. So that's another 12 support points and 6 weight points, which the 6 weight points will bring me down to 44. I also need to leave some support points. Yikes, actually I'm going to be dipping under that, which I'm not sure I like, but actually maybe not. Maybe not if I'm careful. And then I'll be down to 79 support points left. Then we're going to take 5 classic drones as well, which will be another, what is that, 15... Actually, that's going to be 35 support points and 15 weight points. Which the 35 support points will dip me under, so 30, that actually will take me under the 40 cost. I'm hoping we're going to get support points regenerated during the campaign. And 15 weight points takes me down to 29. Let's see. Let's go for... Right now we're also at max morale, presumably, which is what the 10 is. Oh, I forgot to put the driver's skill up on there. We got 5 driver's skill as well. Helps to pay attention to these things. Let's see. 34 support points, 29 weight points. Worn by one member of the team. Body armor is actually tempting. Bring some FPVs, a few, so I have the flexibility. Alright, in that case, I think we'll take 5 FPVs. I was hesitating around those, just because I didn't want just because, I don't know, Kamikaze kind of makes me a little bit nervous. So that's 5 of both. 5 SP, 5 weight points, which will bring me down to 29 support points and 24 weight points. Once it decides to focus in, there we are. Okay, so... we're probably going to need a... As much as I don't like this, I'm going to be dipping very low on support points. I'm going to take at least a... Let's take a drone detector. I'm presuming I'm going to need that before I can buy the drone jammer. The idea being I can't jam what I can't find, right? So that's going to be 20 support points, which will bring me down to 9. Surprisingly, that doesn't cost me any weight points, though, but it does give me a +1 camo dice roll modifier. Let's see. And I don't think there's anything else I can buy up there, unless I want to buy more drones. I think I could take 3 more. I could take 3 more MAV drones and just be done with it. Actually, 1 more MAV, 1 more Matrix might not be a terrible idea, just so I have a little more flexibility on my longer range reconnaissance. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. So we'll go up to 6 and 3. And 6 times 3 is actually going to be 18. And that's another... What is that? Another 2 weight points. So that brings me up to 12. And the Matrix is another 3 weight points, which brings me up to 9. And that cost me 6, so 18. Which should completely clean me out on... Which will clean me out on support points. But adding another 5 weight points is not going to bring me anywhere close. So I'll be at 19. So I'll be at 19 weight points left. And now I have to hope that support points are going to be generated throughout the course of the campaign. Let's see, 3 types of munitions. For streamlined gameplay, munitions are not tracked. Okay, that's going to make my life a lot easier. Let's see, vehicles. Okay, so now I need to actually get the chits out. That would be moderately helpful. What I did for initial storage is I dumped everything from the Ukraine back from the Ukraine into one bag and everything for Russian into another, but I'm not sure I like that idea as I'm looking at everything. And we do have storage for the drones. Let's see. So I need, what did I need? 5 FPVs, 3... Actually, I can just take a 5X on the FPVs. That'll work. 6... Actually, we'll start grabbing the Matrix drones first, since I can get at those a little bit more easily. 3 of those. I took 3, right? Yes. Let's see, 6 MAV. So if I can find a 5X for the MAV in here, which I did, and a single. Well, I can start getting my bombers out as well. What do I want to bet? Yep, I've got a 5X right here for that. So a classic 5X bomber. And we need the, what did we say? The 5X MAV and a single, which, of course, I can't find them. Rules clarification. I didn't think so. I wasn't completely sure about that. I think that's what I was looking up when I made the comment about the index. So yeah, I didn't think we started with an index or with a mascot, but that was what I was looking for. That kind of set me off on the very minor rant, admittedly, about the index. So yeah, thanks for that. All right, so I'll probably end up doing both countries' chits. That's the word I want. I'll say it in English one of these days. And then we get burn dice and dice rolling, which look to be... Oop, and of course I can't hold on to them. So burn dice can be used once per mission to add +2 to a dice roll. And no, I'm not throwing the dice across the room unless it's total frustration. And then the dice blessing may be used once per mission to reroll any single dice roll. There is hope in prayer. I'll swallow the sarcastic retort that comes from that. Anyway, we can get these off of the screen, or actually off shot. So with that, I've got a player 8 up here. So now we're into weather for infiltration. So that's going to send us over to the operational tables. Let's see, weather for infiltration. If I can ever find the blasted thing in here. Here we go. Wait a second. Oh, daily weather. Here we go. So we're on this table, and it's going to be very slow. I should probably warn you of that right off the bat, just because I'm very much pushing pieces around here just to figure out what in the world I think of this game. Fortunately, I can grab a different colored D6. I don't think it mentioned 3D6 in the dice when I was getting everything together, did it? D36, but I didn't see anything about a 3D6 roll in here. Alright, well, that's easy enough to do. I just grabbed a different colored die, just in case I need more 3d6 for anything. So, let's see what we get for... Let's see what we get here. Alright, that is a 12. So a 12 is clear weather, which means we have normal drone operations. So normal drone operations. Let me put this... So current weather... that shit doesn't get placed right away, does it? I'll roll once. So we'll put that on clear. Put that right about there. Okay, so we rolled for the weather there. I'm going to bring this player aid down a little bit closer. Let's see, forward position assignment. So now we're on, looks like that's on the B tables, table B1. So we're rolling over here, and we are starting in June 2024. So this is June 20, this is, game starts I believe on June 1st, 2024, right? Photocopy this book, which not going to worry about that right now. Presumably, campaign game. Yeah, looks like we're going to start this on June 1st, 2024. So we're rolling 1d6 for where we're positioned. And I actually never grabbed the vehicle out, so bear with me while I see about doing that. Which one was the Ukrainian? It was over here. And I'm looking for the Toyota Stout. At least I'm betting it's in here somewhere. Or is that going to be in a different... That might be in a different group, because I'm not seeing any of the vehicles in that grouping. It's probably not going to be in here either. Yes, actually it is in here. We took the... Okay, those can go back in that bowl. Well, most of them got back in there. Alright, so the vehicle we took was the Toyota Stout, which I just had the... Here we go. I was going to say, I just had the cup where I've got the vehicles in there. So here's the Toyota Stout. Looks like 60 weight points, plus 0 is which modifier? That is the... That's not the time segment, so that's the survival dice roll modifier, and minus 2 camo. So all of these can go back in here. Yep. Okay, so now we're rolling 1d6 for presumably where we're starting. Let's see, a 2 says we're starting at the Nature Reserve. Nature Reserve is right here. Okay, it looks like those are all of the starting points. So that was our forward assignment. Now we need to see about public support. So now we're on B2 for public support. Okay. Clear. Public support we established was a 2d6 roll. That's a 10, which we have plus 10 public support points. Not sure what that means. But I'm not completely surprised we don't have a lot of public support yet. We are a very new drone team after all. Okay. Acquisitions, which sends us over to table B3. So that looks like another opportunity probably to buy stuff. So presumably Yep, we will be earning stuff from that. So we've already done our initial acquisitions for the start of the campaign. Nothing to worry about there. And actually, since I'm more on the right side, I'm going to bring this over here. Let's see, loading the vehicle, which is section 3.6. Decide how many drones of each type to load into your vehicle up to capacity. Most vehicles have greater capacity than the 40 weight units that your sapper and driver can carry during infiltration on foot. Some drones may be left behind in the vehicle after the first infiltration on foot. Okay. We need to bring them back to the bunker later. Okay, first, yep, okay, so first, Rotatsiya, and I'm going to probably butcher a lot of the Russian or Ukrainian pronunciation in here, does begin on June 1st, 2024. May only use one vehicle during the infiltration. Place the corresponding vehicle on the vehicle hidden parking space on the forward position map. Okay, that wasn't our base that we just rolled for, was it? No. Alright, infiltration. Okay, so that's loading the vehicle. Since this is primarily pushing pieces around just to see what I think of the game and not necessarily the start of a campaign, because I do want to do essentially a dummy mission, just again to get the feel for the game and how it flows, I'm just going to bring everything with me. If I was doing a real campaign, that would be a very stupid idea, but like I said, that we're going to go with kind of that for practice purposes. Alright, so infiltration by vehicle is where we're going. Wait a second. Table B4. 2D6. So it looks like we're down here on... Okay, B4. Alright, so we're rolling down here. Spotting, infiltration, exfiltration by vehicle. Alright, so we have to see if we're spotted. Dice roll of a natural snake eyes is always spotted, which is good to know. So we're going to roll to see what happens here. That is a 6, so we are spotted, which means we have to roll for Russian fire, which sends me over to... Which table is that going to send me over to? Looks like that's going to send me over to R1. So it looks like on R1 for the Russian fire tables, looks like there's Russian fire for every situation. So we're rolling on infiltration, exfiltration by vehicle. So we're rolling for how many placed. So that's the table we're going to roll on, but I need to make heads or tails of that. Which I'm gathering beyond nothing good. So among the drivers listed DRMs, the driver skill DRM applies. Driver is a 5, which I don't think gives any kind of modifier, does it? Wait, driver... Hold on, driver's actually a 7. So does it dice roll mod based on the skill? A lot of Russian recon drones flying, so it happens. I'm actually... Oh, wait a minute. Reduced by the morale level. Okay, I'm a little bit confused on how the... modifiers are working here. So is it based on the driver's skill level? So since my driver started off with a +7, do I just get a +7 to the roll? I'm confused on how that's working, and I don't see it being... Driver skill DRM. Let me see if it's explained in here. To create DRMs. Okay, add weather dice roll modifier. Okay, yeah, so weather dice roll modifier, which was a +0. Actually, I take that back. It's a -1 because we're clear. Okay, so it does work like that. So it's a +7 because of our driver's skill modifier. So it's entirely possible that we're not spotted. So the weather will modify that down to we'll modify this down to a 5. We don't have any camo. Do we have any survival dice roll modifiers? Not in the stout. Okay, so weather modifies that down to a 5. The camo and the lack of camo in the stout modifies that down to a 3. But the driver skill actually brings that back up to a 10. So we're just barely not spotted. That was close. So spotting by vehicle. Okay. So now we check based on the sapper skill level, which we add the. So now we move to on foot. So we actually got away with one there. Should have the forward position map out right now. Oh, and it's okay. So it's based on. Okay, so it looks like it's based on whichever one comes up. So it looks like we start on the vehicle hidden parking. Presumably? Yeah, you can probably tell it's my first time pushing pieces around on this game, so it's going to be very clunky at first. I'm going to try not to hold that against this game as I'm evaluating for how clunky it's going to be. And then it looks like there's a section up here for what we can load up. Let's see, so we'll take... Actually, like I said, I think we're just going to bring everything since I'm primarily pushing pieces around today. Just to see what I think of it. If I was playing an actual campaign, I wouldn't load everything up. I'd probably be a lot more judicious than this. But since this is essentially just a practice game, survival DRMs in various spaces. Yep, I'm seeing those around here. That's where I park up. Okay. All right. Okay, so now we go... So now we're trying to infiltrate on foot. So we roll per space that we move through, which means we're probably trying to get to... So what are we trying to do here? So it looks like we have to roll on each individual space. Let's see, in this phase, moves from vehicle hidden parking. Wow. As you gain experience, you'll realize that I want to load everything. Okay, so it looks like my instinct of just loading everything up just to push pieces around is the path to go with. Okay. That makes me feel a little bit better that I'm not already screwing something up, because I know when I first tried out SOE Lysander, you were on my case about how much fuel I was taking in. Anywho, mildly rambling on that front. Drone moves, so we're trying to move from the vehicle hidden parking to the bunker. So what path do I want to take? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. I definitely don't think I want to take a -10 dice roll modifier, especially with my relationship with the dice. I mean, YOLO it, I guess. No, I'm going to trust my instincts that are telling me take the safer route. So I'm going to move down. I'm going to move it this way. Actually, I think I want the crew at this point. And I didn't take any food supplies with me when I did initial acquisitions because I am very much El Brillianto. Let's see, move your team members and the drones they carry. Right, so now we've got our team members here. Now we're starting to move along, so we'll start off on the first space here where we've got no modifier on the survival roll. So survival is taking us to, let's see, B5. So back to the tables. So now we're on table B5. So we're adding our sapper skill level, which our sapper skill level is a 5. We also have we actually don't have any camo modifier right now. Survival is no modifier, so our sapper's a 5. That's a 7 plus 5 is 12, which means we don't get spotted. So now we're moving over here with a -3 dice roll modifier, so it's going to net out to a +2 when I cancel out the sapper, when I account for the sapper's skill. That's a 7 plus 2 is 9, so this time we are spotted. Let's see, so it looks like there's several rolls. So parking, not spotted. Space 1 plus 0 DRM, not spotted. Space 2 -3 modifier. Now we are spotted, so now we go to the Russian fire table. So now we're looking at infiltration and exfiltration on foot. So now we're spotted by a Russian drone team. We roll twice on the table. We have to re-roll if rolled twice. Roll below for how many placed. Roll to place each individually on the forward map. So we're rolling twice to see where we get to where we've got anything. Does it tell us where we get? Oh wait, yeah, spot. Oh, looks like we roll. Okay, actually, never mind. So I need a 2d6. 2d6 roll. Looks like this is what we're putting out, presumably. So a 9 is putting out 800mm drones. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be redoing these chits. So I need 800mm. Wait, these aren't drones, I don't think. Hold on. I'm a little... Let's see, so... Roll to place each individual... Oh, that's Russian fire. What? Okay, hold on. Let's see, so we're spotted. Roll for Russian fire. See section 5.5. 800mm round artillery rounds fall on them. 100mm artillery rounds fall around me on the map. Let's see. Okay, 5.5. Okay, roll for spotting whenever timeline marker. So a D8 and a D12. Okay, so that's for the map. So this is rolling for where they land. So we've got 8x 100mm shots. I wonder if there's a marker in here for Russian hits. Oh, I'm an idiot. We've got these markers for them. 2, 4, 6, 8. Because I am, once again, Air Geniuso. So we're rolling a D8 and a D12 for where these are going to land on the map. Hopefully not at 5, 6. And this is actually reminding me a little bit of Inside Pitch baseball and giving me mild flashbacks. So first is 3-1, so we've got a hit landing there. So 3-1. That is a 6-1. Oop. Fortunately, I do remember my ordered pairs from... God, how long ago was that? Like, that was probably like 7th or 8th grade math. A 10-1. Wow, I'm rolling a lot of ones. A lot of ones on that D8. That's a 6-3, which is down here right on our path. Let's see, that's a 7-6, which is not too far from us. And it looks like I've only got 7 of these, so I might have to buy... if I do more with this game, I'm probably going to buy... I might have to buy more of these hit markers or pilfer them from another game. Another game in the library. Let's see, that's a 12-3. Learning this really fast, solid on remembering rules, learning it and understanding what it means tactically. Well, how about right now the fact that we're facing a potential disaster, especially as these hits are working their way to us. Let's see, a 4-2 is right there. One, two, three, four, five, six. Hold on. Okay, so I didn't mark one of these. I marked 3-1, 6-1, 6-3. I just marked 4-2. 10-1's the one I didn't mark. And a 7-7, which is down here. Well, that could have been a whole lot worse, but we do have to roll again. A good thing Russian artillery is notoriously inaccurate. Well, it may be inaccurate, but I'll borrow a line from 6th grade sex ed for this one. Once is enough. Once is enough to ruin our day. So now we have to roll again for Russian fire. So we're right back to our same section here as well. So let's see what we get on the 2d6 roll. Let's see, this time it's a 7. So we've got 422 millimeter rounds. Probably, I bet it's going to be doing the same thing here, just falling around us on the map. At least that's what I'm going to go with for the time being. I'm sure you'll correct me if I'm totally wrong on that, Thomas. I'm definitely glad you're here as I'm pushing around pieces to see what I think of this game. Already the length is making me hesitate on putting this on the channel, much more than for exhibition plays. So far I'm not warming up to doing this as a full campaign the way I would be, for the way I am for something like Mag 23 or Tally Ho, certainly. Let's see, this time we've got a 12-5. So a 12-5 is landing right over here. I thought it said... Oh! Yeah, I do have to move forward. I guess I was reading this part of spotted by a drone team. So yes, I do have to move again. You're right. See? I'm mostly clueless when it comes to this game. Let's see. So now we're on space 3, which gives us a -1 die roll modifier, which is actually going to net to a +4 once I factor in my sapper's skill. Let's see, that's a 5. +4 is 9, so we're spotted again. And you were saying about not going back to the table again, Phoenix? So now we are spotted again. We've got to see what's going to land on our heads this time. A 7. And we get to the same place that we were landing at ultimately, 422 millimeter rounds again. So now we need to see where those are landing. A 5-3 would be really bad here for obvious reasons. A 2-7 is right on our pathway, which is mildly problematic at least. Let's note that in the... What was that? 7-5. So we've got 3 more hits to roll. That is a 10-4. So 10-4. Bigger than the 122 millimeter rounds. So, artillery rounds. So if they come close, it's much worse. Yeah, I wouldn't exactly imagine it's a good day getting hit by the 100 by artillery is probably just going to ruin your day no matter what you get hit by. Let's see, that's a 2-1, which is fortunately up over here in La La Land, thankfully. And our last hit there is a 6-1, which is over here. Thankfully, we are still clear. And actually, I'm having these Russian shits everywhere is bothering me a little bit. So I'm going to put these back in the bowl I've got for them just to get them off the table. Okay, let's put that table out of the way for the time being. Then we're moving into S4, which I can get all of these off. That's a -2 die roll modifier, which nets out to +3 when I bring in the Sapper's skill level. Which, that's not really likely to get us to evade anything. 4 + 3 is 7. Last time I checked my addition tables. It's been a few years since I've checked that, but a 7 is definitely enough to get us spotted again. So that brings us back to Russian fire once again. Wow. We're definitely getting a lot of practice on how this Russian fire table works, if nothing else. Even if we're fortunate enough to not be stopping a lot of rounds with our faces. Let's see, that's a 4, which is 8 grads. Which, I'm not sure what that translates to. Probably... Let's see. From exfil on foot. Let's see. Grads. A drone team on the move is a high priority target. Yeah, I would kind of have figured that to begin with. Okay. I wonder if it doesn't explain that in the example of play. Let's see, where does it explain rocket-powered artillery, Stalin's organ? Interesting, which I'm assuming those also land around us. Just based on what else we've got happening here. So we've got 8 of those landing around us. Which, okay, right. Alright. So now we want to avoid an 8-3. So we've got 8 of those coming in. That's a 1-4, which is right there. A 3-5. 3-5. Good thing we didn't take that path earlier, but it definitely is going to cause us problems. We're also going to have problems if we roll a 2-7. Because that's going to take out our vehicle most likely. Although these rockets might not. I don't know. They're not too powerful from the looks of it. A 1-7. 1-7. Whoa! That came way too close to our stout for comfort. Let me zoom in a bit on the forward map so you can see what's I don't want to zoom in. Actually, what I can do here is I should be able to do that to get both the map and the dice tower in shot. Yeah, you can see here where that last hit almost came down right on top of the vehicle. That would have been catastrophic, to put it mildly. No, I didn't. I didn't roll. What I'm saying, Thomas, is you can see here where it came close, but it didn't hit the stout. It didn't come down in the same space as it. So we ducked the hit there. Do I still have to roll from it being close? I'm going to roll the other hits while we figure that out. Let's see. That is a 2-5, which is right here, and I actually want to make sure that the ordered pair is still visible. We've still got 4 more hits to roll for. That is a 9-7. Way out here in La La Land. Let's see, that one's an 11-8, which I don't mind that being in La La Land either. So we have 2 more hits that we have to roll for. That is a 9-3. Whoa! Still have to roll for the possible damage to the vehicle when it's in an adjacent space. And I'm assuming the same thing is going to hold true for the team. So effects of Russian fire. Okay, course. So probably survival DRM plus 1 per 6th sense for members collocated with the drone pilot. A dice blessing or a burn dice may be applied once each per game month to this roll. Okay, so we have to roll for the grads on the vehicle, which was the 1-7 hit. Alright, so we're rolling 2d6 for that. I'll get that out in a second. I'm getting to that, and I'll get to that in a second. Let's see, X and Y's correspond to hits at or adjacent to the vehicle. Let's see, that's a 4. So 4 for the vehicle is minus 2M. So it actually looks like X, which means the vehicle is just destroyed? That would be catastrophic. So that's what I got from the 4 from the rockets, which means either a lucky shot or that's what they're designed for, to take out our stout, which is mildly problematic at least. Right. So we don't have any kind of survival DRM, I don't think, on... Yeah, the vehicle doesn't have any kind of survival DRM. So, assuming I'm reading that correctly, that means our stout just goes toodaloo and basically F's off into flames. I'll leave that on the map for the time being, but that seems like a very lucky shot from the Russians. Not good. And then the 9-3 that we just rolled, I'll have to roll for hits to the team as well on that. So let's see what we get here. A 12 of boxcars. Question is, how much does morale go down from that? That's going to be mildly catastrophic. Question is, how much? I assume that's explained in here somewhere. Oh, delightful. Oh, reads minus 2M, so that's 2 morale lost. Okay. So our morale goes down to 8. Looks like that's all team morale. Okay, this is definitely going to bother me a bit, so I'm going to leave that for a second. Maybe it's so I'm just curious about why this morale chit is so big. Is that the -2 is the loss of morale, and the X is the vehicle. Okay. So yeah, the vehicle went toodaloo. I'm assuming you must have streamlined morale for the whole team rather than setting it up individually. Because in theory, you could probably split off the team. At least that's what I'm guessing there. So now we've got to roll. So now we got to roll for the Russian fire for the team from the 9-3 that we rolled earlier. That's a 6, which is problematic, so that's going to be down another 2 morale. Jeez. So we're already down 4 morale, and I have not even had a chance to launch a drone yet. That seems mildly problematic, and we've got one more hit that we have to roll for. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. Morale marker slides downward, and when it's lower than any team member's skill level, that temporarily is that team member's skill level. Delightful. So right now our driver's skill level is a 6. Which that's wonderful. And we've still got one more hit from the grads that I've got to roll for. That's a 5-6. Which, wow, that would have come down right on top of our heads in the earlier space. So we're already down 4 morale, and we haven't even gotten to our bunker yet. Which is where we're headed next. Let me get all these hit markers. Let's see, that's a 5-6. Delightful. And now moving into our bunker, which gives us a +2, which nets to a +5, which nets to a +7. Which nets to a +7 die roll modifier. So let's see what we're able to do here. That's a 9, +7 is 16. Definitely not spotted this time moving in. I'm a good team leader, so I'll give the team a pep talk over morning coffee. Well, is now the time to mention that I don't really specialize in pep talks? Morale will improve. Well, we hope so anyway. Let's see, daily tasking. So we go to the operational tables. Now we're looking at June to see what we are targeting. So we established that June 1st. June 1st was what? I think that was a Saturday, right? Let's get the calendar. Let's see, June 2024. Let's do it this way. June, yep, that's a Saturday. Not a game I've ever needed the day of the week for. Actually, this is probably the first time. Yeah, that was a pretty bad trip to the bunker where we already lost our vehicle, which means this thing can definitely F off the map at this point. What did I do with the vehicles? I had a cup set aside right here. Actually, I'll think of something I want to do with that. Actually, we can just flip that over like so. So obviously the vehicle hidden parking wasn't so hidden. Okay. So now we figure out what we're being tasked with for today. As I flip over the notebook. So daily tasking. So now we're rolling 2d6 on the June 2024 table from Monday through Saturday. So let's see what we get assigned here to start with. That's a 7, so we're being assigned observation. Okay, daily weather determination. Brigade HQ will dispatch a vehicle to pick us up at the end of our rotatia, but I'll need to buy a new vehicle before my next rotatia begins. Well, you might have missed it at the top of the video, but I'm not sure I'm going to start a campaign from this. This is primarily kind of just pushing pieces around just to see what I think of the game, and like I said, maybe it's just me being clunky with learning the game, but the length is already kind of bothering me a little bit. So, hold on. Weather for infiltration. So it looks like we roll again for the start of the game day. So weather for start, which is probably where I didn't need this track yet. So we started off with clear infiltration. And boxcars means we've got clear operations. Oh, I bet it's a... So clear weather again. Okay. Now we look at the morning target handoff, which is roll before early morning. Okay. So it looks like that's what we're getting targeted, placed on a random A or B. So should I be swapping? Okay, so it looks like I probably want the... So now do I want the forward position map off shot? And I want to go back out, and I want to go back out top from the looks of it, back out to the main map. That seems like where we want to go with this. At least that's what I'm thinking here. So we're right now at C right now. Daily tasking. Okay. Let's see. So on the main map, that's what I thought. So now I want to... This is definitely one thing that's starting to bother me a little bit, and maybe it'll get better as I'm learning the game. But the flow of changing maps like this, the Crash Nohoverkova sector is really active. A lot of Russian equipment on the move. Troops in meat wave attacks, tanks, other armored vehicles, motor infantry, and golf carts. Joy! I thought I'd seen every use for golf carts when I used them in Grand Theft Auto Vice City, but apparently we've got a new one in War. Anyway. Okay. So now we're rolling for our morning target. So actually, we're rolling for our morning target, which is what we've got down here. It's another 2d6. I'm going to have a lot of action. Delightful. Well, I'm on observation today, so probably not. Wait a minute. 1 to 5. Don't roll on the table. What? Let's see. Roll on the morning target handoff table. Place resulting targets. Okay. Well, looks like we've got an 8, which an 8 in this case is an infantry team that goes on a random B location. So it looks like infantry on a B location. We've got the soccer field, Marinka. Looks like those are the only two. So we need a Russian infantry. We'll go with motorcycle infantry until I can find a separate chit for infantry. So we place on a random B location. So we're going to go odds for the soccer field, evens for Marinka on a 1d6. Roll once to see if I need to place a... That concerns when I'm looking for observation targets, which I am on observation. So it looks like a 1 to 5. So if I'm understanding this correctly... So I roll 1d6, 1 to 5, don't roll here, but a 6 I do roll, correct? That's what I'm going to go with for the time being until I get more confirmation on that. That's a 4, so if I'm understanding that correctly, I don't roll on the morning target handoff table. That's what I'm going to go with. So clear, morning target handoff. If I'm understanding that correctly, that's what I'm going to go with for the time being. So now we're going to go for the morning coffee pep talk, and we're going to see just how terrible I am at pep talks, but I don't think there's a... I think it looks like that's an option where I can spend 2 moxie to raise morale +1, and I probably have to here. So I do have that straight. That would bring me down to 1 moxie, and given that we got our morale almost cut in half, I think that's probably worthwhile to spend 2 moxie to bring our morale back up. That way we get our driver's skill back to full strength. So now we're rolling on weather progression, which brings us back to... Which table is that bringing us back to? That's bringing us over to the operations table. Right, weather progression, which does not apply in the early morning. Okay, so how do we move the... So what moves us the timeline around? Probably the drone missions that we fly. Timeline requirements. Okay, so it looks like we're on segment 1 of the early morning. Let's see. So weather progression, we are rolling... So this is not early morning, so no weather progression. So no weather progression there, which means we can skip that. Then we roll on mistakes were made and spotting, and based on the drone missions, depending on the type of drone, you use more time. Okay. So we're still at segment 1 right now on that. But we have to roll for mistakes were made, and we have to roll for mistakes on mistakes were made. So spotting and Russian fire on the bunker? For spotting and infiltration or exfiltration, use B4 and B5. Right. Okay. So it looks like we're rolling... Okay, so we're rolling on mistakes were made first, which for June is a 2d6 roll. 2 to 3 we roll on mistakes were made. 4 to 12 we don't roll. So we don't want to see a 2 or a 3 here. Which that's a 6, so no mistakes made. Which means we skip over the spotting and Russian fire, so we go to flying drone missions. So now in section 6, let's see, following applies timeline requirements. Fly drone missions during any of the 12 segments. Don't have to fly during any time segments while resting in the bunker. Always roll for weather progression. Mistakes were made and spotting as the time marker advances on the timeline into the next period. Okay, so it looks like we've got our table of missions here. Wait a second. First, you must expend the number of segments. Okay, so we're on... So it looks like we're on observation missions. There's a section for those. No. Not there. Tanks and armored vehicles. Not there from the looks of it. The only way I can get out... The mascot is on the mistakes. On the mistakes were made table. One walks up on a 64 to 66. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to roll that high here, but we'll find out. Okay, so now we're starting on our missions. So let's see what we can fly for drone missions. Let's see, early morning begins. Page 24, second table from the top. Here we go, second table from the top. Okay, so we're rolling a... So now we need a D30... Actually, we need a... observation. So D6 is a 1 to 5. Don't roll on the table. 6 we roll. Okay. So it looks like we're rolling... Looks like we roll for each time segment, presumably. Right. Let's see, observation points. Let's see here. Okay, so... Right, so we roll for the first mission to see if we do roll on the table. Roll for each location searched by recon. We didn't search anything during recon. So... Well, actually, I wasn't aware we could even do recon. Okay, so flying drone missions. Timeline requirements. Jeez. Let's see. Fly a mission. Let's see, you may fly drone missions, yada 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 yada. Okay, to fly a mission, first you must expend. Launch a drone and fly it to the space from which you can see an area marked with L. So launch a drone, probably launching a recon drone of some kind. I'll send a Matrix drone. Actually, yeah, let's send a Matrix drone out. No, that's dumb. We're going to send a MAV drone out. So a MAV out, fly to a space from which I can see an area, which is which I can see an area marked with L. So my L spaces are... So it looks like my L spaces from Nature Preserve are Hyorhivka. Again, I'm having terrible time with my Ukrainian. Alexandrovskoy Farm Base. Osikova. And Terrakon Mine Spoil, but that one's way out in the middle of nowhere. And with a 3 location, I can only get to, presumably... From hex-shaped areas, I don't have to roll an EV jamming check. So from the Nature Preserve, which we're at, so we can move up to, looks like we can move up to 3 locations. So we'll send MAV-1 out. And first you must expend a corresponding... The time tracker is at... Because that requires 3 time segments. So from 47 Okay, so we need to have the time segments based on the number of locations. Okay, that makes a little more sense. So sending out this... So if I'm understanding this correctly, sending out the MAV means I have 3 locations. So I'll need to expend 3 time segments to get that out anywhere. At least I'm hoping I have that straight. So, and then I bet the modifier on here is going to be the modifier I'm eventually rolling when I get over to the jamming table, I think. Let's see, so add drone DRM, antenna DRM, repeater, and navigator skill. So we're going to be trusting Jester on this one, and then the Russian roll. At least that's what I think I'm understanding. I'm probably going to fly the distance, however far it is, and then do surveillance. Time to fly is not much. Distance between areas is maybe 1 kilometer or 2, and the drone flies at 90 kilometers an hour, so it's not going to take too long, obviously. Fly the distance however long it is. So let's start off at the farm base, which is 2, and presumably 2 time segments if I'm understanding that correctly. So now we're rolling on... Real time is what it takes to look over an area. So now we're rolling on the jamming table from the looks of it, so we're sending a MAV out there. So our dice roll modifiers are based on the Russian EWDR. So move it from the bunker where it launched to the locations. Place a drone counter of what we want to fly. Next move to the which to fly to. Count the shortest number of locations and hexagons. Distance DRM. So that was a +2. So that was a 2. Okay, so that looks like it's based on the distance that we're flying there. Okay, farther away from your antenna, the more susceptible your drone is to jamming. So since we moved 2 spaces, it looks like we're rolling on this column. So our modifiers are... Could search any space from an adjacent space, so why not search it from a hexagon? That probably makes more sense. So we'll search at the complex. And since that's a 1, we're rolling on this space with a die roll of with a modifier of, so scouting. I'm going to call that AFB. I hope there's no other observation or no other abbreviation like that on there, because I'm not going to try to write out all of these spaces, try to write out all these Ukrainian names. So since we're scouting from 1 space away, we roll here, we roll on this 1 or less column, presumably. We add dice roll modifiers, which there's none on the drone. We don't have an antenna, don't have a repeater, and Jester, as our navigator, has a skill of a 6. So we'll grab our 2d6 and see what we roll there. Oh, I don't have to roll a jamming check. Okay. Well, I'm trying to get used to as much about this game as I can. Let's see. So what do we actually get for that? Performing drone recon missions. Fly to a chosen hover location. Okay, so we can conduct at up to 3 locations. Roll on the corresponding target type, which is in this case... So that table... Oh, so that's probably what we find there. All right, so now it looks like we want to roll on target tables here for what we actually find. So we're looking at, if I was on top of the L space, I would have to do a jamming check with a modifier of 2, with a distance of 2, correct? So it looks like we're on scouting AFB from complex 15. No jamming. All right, so we're rolling on an L. And D36, red is going to be the tens die. We're dividing that by 2. Let's see, that's a 12. So that means we find an observation post and a Bukanka. That could have sounded really wrong. We've got an observation post. Oop. Help if I could spell observation correctly. And which means now I most likely need to go into the Russian chits for that. So there's our Bukhanka. And, oh, there is a separate chit for infantry team. And we need to find, here's an observation post. So that's what we find there. So since we're on observation, let's see, we can recon up to 3 locations, which, if I want to go to L, so if I want L spaces, let's see, to the location, after I move, count the shortest, okay. Make an RT, after recon or bombing, not FPB, make an RTB check for the returning drone. Okay, we have to roll a d6 first before rolling for targets on those tables. Okay, so probably that if there's nothing there. So actually, the way we'll do that is we'll roll blue for the target roll, and then we'll take the d36. So if we roll a 1, we roll a 1 to 5, we don't roll there. On a 6, we do. The blue die is a 2, so no roll. So nothing there, probably. So that was our first scouting mission. That was our first target. Moving to the next location. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, this was kind of dumb, actually. We'll go 2. That thing's going to immediately run out, isn't it? So we don't roll there, which means now we roll a... Okay, so now we can bring it... So now after recon, which we just did, we'll make an RTB check. So we'll roll a d6 for... We'll roll 2d6. And we want to see a... We want to see a 3 and up. That's a 5, so that one returns to base. Which means it comes back, and we mark off the aforementioned. Can move to the next hexagon space and check the next one. Oh, so it can scout up. Looks like it can scout up to 3. Wow, I can tell I'm not having a good day with this. Let's see. So now we want to move. Now we could move 1, 2, 3, 4 to the mining complex. And we'll scout the Terrakan mine spoil. Can search up to 3 spaces before coming home. Terrakan mine spoil. See, if we roll for targets, we'll do it the same way that we did earlier. A 5 says we don't roll for targets there. We rolled that from the mining complex. And then this one, we're going to move to the soccer field. We're going to scout Osikova, but we will have to... This time we will have a jamming roll because we're scouting from the soccer field. So jamming roll here. And now we check the number of locations we're away from our bunker, which were two locations away this time. Actually, we could go back to the marshlands and scout Herhivka north, which I think... Why not fly to Access Road? Oh yeah, we could fly there. Well, tactically I probably would do that, but I do want to get the feel for how the jamming roll works as well. So I really want to try to dig into this game. Tactically, yes, I'd probably move over to Access Road so I can avoid the jamming roll. But I do want to get the feel for the jamming roll, so I am going to scout from the soccer field so I can experience at least one of those. Again, trying to push as many pieces around here as I can and see how things work. Just to see if I want to do more with this game. Besides, I'm going to have to face a jamming roll at some point, right? So now that brings us over to the jamming table. So now we're rolling. Now we're checking. I believe we've established we're checking locations away. And fly over any of the areas at high altitude where I'd otherwise have to do a jamming check. No problem, so I can get a sense of the jamming. Let's see, so the way we'd have to do when I arrive at a hover location, I always have to resolve jamming. So it looks like I have to, if the hover location is a hexagon, ignore that. So roll 2d6 to determine the intensity of the jamming. Number of spaces flown from my bunker to the drone, that's the distance modifier. So in this case, that's a 2 that we'll be using for the distance modifier, which is a, what is that? Add a, so 2d6, add the distance and location. So distance and location. So since we're 2 away from the hover location, we're going to scout Osikova from the soccer field. This is where we're rolling on the jamming table. So we're rolling here. And we'll roll, let's see, the modifier, drone, antenna, repeater, none of those apply. Navigator, Jester's a 6 as our navigator. That's a 2, which is a 14. So it looks like 2, we're just barely safe. Safe from jamming. Now we see if there are any targets to roll for. Once again, the way I'm rolling this, blue die to determine if I need to roll on the target table, red and white in case I do. And it's only a 6 where I roll on that table. That is a 6, so I do have to roll on the table. That is a... Well, I'm trying to remember that I'm pushing pieces around here. The point is to figure out this game and see if I want to do more with it. Roll first for the Russians, then roll from my side. Okay. So the distance that I roll... So roll first for the Russians. So we're adding a... Okay, so we're adding... we add the 2 for the distance die roll modifier. And then the location is where we're scouting from or where we're scouting. Let's see if it's explained on... It's explained in here. Let's see. Let's see if the hover location, roll 2d6 to determine the intensity. Add the distance and location. Yep. Rolled very low for the Russians. I'm gonna re-roll that since I was already starting to take information based on that. So where I'm scouting from, which in this case is soccer field, so a +0. Add the distance and the location. So we have a 2 plus, we get to the same place. 4 is a 6, so we're actually rolling on the 6 to 7 column for how strong the jamming is. Which is automatically which we have a 6 roll from Jester's skill as the navigator. And that's our only positive modifier for our side. Yikes. 4 plus 6 is 10, which is abort and return, so we have to return to base. So we'll roll our return to base check. Return to base is... Must return to base, okay? So we have to roll... So we want to see... Make an RTB check for the returning drone, okay? So we want to see a 3 and up. which that's a 9, so that one returns to base. So that drone returns to base, and I already marked off the 3 time that we were using to scout. So now let's try out a Matrix drone next. See if it might give us a little bit more results here. So now we can scout 4 locations. See if anything's picked up later in the morning. So where do I want to start that moving? Can do it again to search the other L locations. Well, I think the only other L location I've got on here is the only other one is the... Is there another L location? Yes, there is Herivka North. So I think we will start there. We'll scout there from Old Church. Herivka North from 4 L locations, and I searched 3 of them, and I'm about to search the last one now. And I'm scouting from the Old Church, so I don't have a jamming roll I have to worry about there. And the 2 says there's nothing there. So I don't have to roll on that chart. Heorivka. I told you, Thomas, my Ukrainian pronunciation is absolutely atrocious. Okay, so are we only able to search locations once per day? Or is it once per segment, potentially? So we essentially... Alright, so we didn't find anything at any of those targets, which presumably to perform recon, 2 dice rolls are required. Only once during each game day. Okay. Oh, costs 2 time segments to fly a MAV there. Okay. So, wait a minute. So, now I have to wait to search the L locations later on. Oh, so those are the required targets, but now we can go scout other places, it looks like. Okay, so that makes more sense. So essentially the target you get earlier, so the daily tasking we had the L observation, those are the targets we have to scout, but then we can go scout anything else we might need to. Okay, so I think on that note, since we're right here, we might as well scout Heorivka South. And we'll scout that from the Old Church again. See if we find anything here. We're presumably rolling on A targets here to see if we find anything. So July -1. When rolling for locations at those locations, I roll on the bottom table of page 24. Oh, recon for any location not in daily tasking. Okay. So we still have to roll to see if we find any targets there. All right, a 3 says no. Let's see, so this will be 4 segments that we're rolling, essentially, for the Matrix. Well, yeah, for the Matrix. So that was actually... So Mat 3, we're going to go scout... We might as well go to the marshlands and scout the soccer field. Okay. So, right. So now we're rolling there. So it's a minus... So we're scouting the marshlands. Wait. Other way, Phoenix. Note it the other way. So soccer field from the marshlands. Yep. Marshlands from the soccer field. Now that we've got that straight. Let's see, the modifier there is a +0. That's a 5 that's hidden in there, so 5 says we don't roll. Okay, so nothing. Then we will roll for, so this is drone missions, early morning. So now we'll go ahead and scout Gully since we're right here. And that'll be our last mission with this matrix. Gully from marshlands. Alright, let's see what we've got here. That's a 2, so we don't roll on the target. Nothing there. Which means now we've got to see if this matrix returns to base. Once again, we want to see a 3 and up. That's an 8, so that one returns to base. Which means we could, in theory, send it out again. It's been a pretty quiet day so far. That'll be another... Let's... You know what? Let's send it out again. So this will be the third recon mission. So we'll send our matrix out again. Where do I want it to go scout this time? We'll send it up to Complex 15, and we'll have it scout Krasnohovrika. Krasnohovrika. From, what is that? Complex 15. And there's a -1 modifier on there this time. Swap batteries and send the drone out again. So a -1 modifier on here. Oh wait, that's only a July 20th plus. Never mind, I can't scout there. Hold that thought. So I can't scout there just yet. Helps to read the map, Phoenix. Krasnohorivka. Again, my Ukrainian is horrendous. So let's go... So let's go over to Pivdeno-Skahidna. And yes, that probably was the worst pronunciation you've heard yet. Pivdeno, so we're going to start off scouting out the old rail embankment. From Pivdeno-Skahidna. You're probably getting a laugh out of my pronunciation on Ukrainian, aren't you? Or is that now what's triggering the oh dear? That's a -2 skill. That's a -2 roll modifier. That's a 3, so a 1 means I will have to roll on the table. And this time we've got a 16, which is a mortar team. So I'll probably have to send a team in to attack that, is probably what's triggering the oh dear, if I had to guess. Now, is that an immediate thing that I have to pull it back, or can I continue with or do I get to continue with recon? Looks like we continue the... When rolling on some targets are required, I must conduct attacks immediately and continue to do so until every Russian unit there is destroyed. Okay, so it looks like I'm going to have to... I could not perform any of my... So on the sector map, the zero line changes on the dates listed to show advances of Russian forces. Okay, so it looks like we found a mortar team there, which means now I've got to send an attack team out to deal with that. So now I've got to find a mortar team chit in here. I'm assuming they have them in here, not MTLB. Pivdenu Skahidna. I keep telling you, Thomas, my Ukrainian pronunciation is terrible. But clearly, there's a reason for that. Skahidna. The eyes long. Let's see, so now we get to learn about how I conduct drone attacks. Let's see. Okay. So I have to attack there until everything's destroyed. Well, let's find out how we conduct attacks. 3 types of attacks. Calling artillery fire. Artillery fire is never guaranteed. So it looks like we'll have to send in a... Performing drone bombing can only be conducted with a classic. So we do have a classic drone that we'll have to put up with that to fly a bombing mission. So it looks like now we've got to send a bombing mission out. So we'll send a classic drone out for that. So launch either a classic and fly to the target. For each mission, advance the timeline marker on my daily. So so far we've only done 1 recon mission, but now I have to launch a bombing mission, and I need a single classic for that, which I've got right here. So now a bombing mission, I have to roll that over to... So we advance the timeline marker onto the target. So we'll advance for the bombing mission, we'll come over the top of the old rail embankment, but we have to roll for jamming first. So now we're at... Okay, so now let's see if I understand how this jamming roll actually works. So the modifier here, so we've got a distance modifier of 1, 2, 3, because that's the shortest path to get there, minus 2. Minus 2 is a 1, so if I'm understanding this correctly, that's going to net out to a plus 1, rolling for the jamming strength. So jamming strength here is plus 1. That's a 7, plus 1 is an 8, so I'm rolling on the 8 to 9 column. Which means I have to roll for my navigator's skill, which is still a 6. And that is the only modifier I've got. So we're on the 8 to 9. That's a 7 plus the 6 from Jester's skill is a 13. So unfortunately, we have to abort and return. So we have to make a return to base roll. That's an 8, so it's safe. Which means we load up and try again. So that'll advance on another mission. We'll just leave the classic bomber right there. We'll see how jamming works again here. Once again, modifier is nets out to a plus 1. That's a 6 plus 1. This time we're on the 6 to 7 table, which the 15 we rolled last time would have been safe for us. So once again, modifier is a plus 6 for Jester's navigation skill. That's a 6 plus 6 is 12. So, of course. Actually, Sixth Sense did what again? Was that? That wasn't a straight reroll, was it? No. Sixth Sense is applied once per game roll, once per day. Does that give me 6? Wait a minute. Drone die roll modifier. So that's a 13, and then a. Yeah, I'm probably going to have to use a Sixth Sense shit here, but I need to figure out what in the world they actually do. Ability to sense trouble. What they actually do on the actual table here, because it's not... +1 die roll modifier per Sixth Sense. Oh! Wow, I am blind. Clearly my eyesight is not what it used to be in my old age. So that was a 6 plus 2 is 12, which means I'd have to spend 2 Sixth Sense chits. That would bring me down to 1, which is the main reason I'm hesitant on it, but I will in this case, to make myself safe to roll. So that'll bring it up to a 14, which means I am safe. Yeah, I found it finally. Like I said, my eyesight's going in my old age, clearly, and I'm probably going to call it after this mission, because I'm sure you're wanting to go watch The War Room, and honestly, I kind of want to be able to sit down and watch that this week myself. Let's see, so now we're all on the S tables for the amount of munition used. Oh, expend them before I roll. Okay, so So we do have to abort that. So this time we do have to abort again. So that'll be a return to base. And a 3 means we just barely return to base. We'll run it back again. This is our third classic mission. We've got a ton of jamming coming from here. Once again, net +1 on the jamming table. Aside from the fact that I can't get past this jamming, that's an 8. Yikes. +1 is 9. Yikes. So 8 to 9, and I think I will expend... I'm going to expend 1 Sixth Sense. Because I need to be able... I only have 3 Sixth Senses, so I've got to be very stingy with how I use them. I've got 3 for the entire day. I've got to be very careful how I use them. That's a 4, +1 is 5. So our classic drone ended up lost. When I get enough SPs together, I might want to invest in an airborne repeater and an advanced antenna. I was looking at those, but start of the campaign, I couldn't justify the points, especially since I was getting a little bit down on points by the time I got to all of that. So now let's grab 5 singles out here. Jeez Louise. Did I add the navigator skill to my DR? Yes, I... Actually, wait a second. 10... Let's see, that would have been 11. That would have been another abort and return at any rate. This is getting more than a little ridiculous, though. I'm trying to find another single classic bomber chit in here, but I'm having problems tracking one down in here. I had the 5X earlier, but I'm thinking I want more singles. Of course I don't. Because that's all kinds of delightful. So yeah, I didn't lose the drone, but I did have it return to base. I threw that in here in frustration. Now I can't find it again. Oh, it's still over. Oh, I know what I was looking for. I was looking for the singles. Okay, that's what happened. All right, so we are looking at. Okay, right. So we had the return to base safe again. So now we've got another bombing mission. Oh, right. I still have to roll for that. Which it returns to base again. So now we're loading up again. This is our 4th bombing mission in a row. +1 on the jamming. Seven plus 1 is 8 again. The jamming is strong with this one. I'm probably going to have to expend my other 2 Sixth Sense chits. So we've got a +2 on the roll. A 10 plus 6 is 16. Finally, good grief. Finally, we're safe. So now we can actually try to bomb these guys. Goodness gracious. And don't start with the Great Balls of Fire. Hopefully we can throw a few Great Balls of Fire out there. Classics expend 2 time segments per flight. Alright, well, I'm going to call it... So we're going to call ourselves at the... So we're going to call ourselves at the end of the early morning after this roll. I've way screwed up my time on that. So now we're rolling for bombing, which roll on the S tables, applying for the munitions used. We don't have the S tables separate here, do we? Russian fire. Why do I have 2 Russian fire tables? That's a little weird. So the S tables are probably in the book. Target tables. Mistakes were made. Haven't made almost any mistakes. A bit slower as I play. Yeah, I'm definitely feeling a bit clunky as I play this game, and supply depots, that's definitely not the page 27. D20 DRs to hit, plus the support points earned value. Opposite the jamming table. What I was actually wondering about is if the... So yeah, I found it in the book. I'm here. So I'm here, which is what I'm going to be going for. So I'm going after the mortar team in a second with the classic bomblet. But what I'm looking for is on the... What I was looking for is on the printed player aids. Because on the printed player aids, you've actually got the Russian fire tables on here twice. I was looking for that bombing table, and I noticed that. So that's kind of what was making me scratch my head, that the Russian fire tables were on the player aids twice from Blue Panther. Let's see. So that's to destroy the target, roll equal to or greater than the listed number. So we're going to have to expend, so that's a 6 plus 1 per pilotage, roll equal to or greater than the number rolled. And is that a modifier here for a bombing mission? Is that a... Let's see, to fly a bombing mission. So we survive the jamming. Do we get any kind of... That's D20. So it looks like we need a D20 with this as well. I didn't think I saw that listed in the Yeah, that's the only way this makes sense, is for that to be a D20 roll. Maybe you can tell me if my instincts are right on that. So I'm looking at this desk table. I'm seeing D20 dice rolls. I'm assuming that's going to be coming off of a normal D20. Fortunately, I have got plenty of D20s around here, so I just need to go fishing one of them out. There we go. Okay, so I'm assuming it's a D20 roll, which means for a mortar team using a regular bomb, I need a 6+ to destroy it on a D20. I'm not going to worry about expending pilotage on this roll just yet. Roll a D20, roll on the roll for the mortar team using a classic bomber. I need a 7+ to hit, which of course that's a 5, so first one is no hit. So now I roll again. That's a 14, so that one takes out the mortar team. Finally, good grief. The jamming was strong there. Bombers on a classic, not bombs from a... So it's a bomb. Okay, classic bomblet I need, which I just let both of them loose. So the second one was a hit on a 14, which took that thing out, and I got 20 SPs. Okay, so since I was screwing up the timer there, now we're going to make a switch on the day, since we're moving into the late morning now. That mission took that mortar team took a lot of time. So now we're rolling on the... roll on the RTB check for the drone. I was getting ready for the day transition, but I think the day transition's probably where I'm going to call this one. I might come back to it later, but I'm not sure. 7, which means it returns to base. Because I do have the 2009-10 feature game selection show coming up later tonight. So let's go ahead and go through the day transition. So daily operations. So it looks like every time we loop through... So every time we get to a segment, we go back to the daily operations table. So we roll for weather progression, which is back to the operational tables. So we're looking at weather progression right down here, which is a D6. Forecast was forecast was clear from the looks of it. Forecast will stick with being clear. So now we're rolling to see if the weather changes. A 1 says it's going to be moving left. So we're still on clear skies. So that was weather. Then we roll on mistakes were made and spotting and Russian fire, which is another 2d6. Which is a 7, so we don't roll there. And then we're back to flying drone missions. So now we're into the late morning. But that will do it. That's where I'm going to call it a session of Game of Drones. Goodness gracious. Let's see. Looking at the time, holy crap, over 2 hours for that? Well, if I would have been paying attention and done the classic... if I would have done the classic... If I would have actually done the classic bomber segment correctly, this probably would have gone a little bit faster, but still. 2 hours, and I'm not even done with the day yet. Virtually no errors in gameplay. Well, the question is, am I going to get used to it? And that is definitely a big issue, that I lost my vehicle. I don't know yet. I'm going to have to give this a little bit of thought. I definitely am going to have to put some dice aside if I want to do more with this game. And the fact that it took me 2 hours, I'm hoping the time, 2 hours for the segment of the day, and I'm not even done with the segment of the day, the first day yet. So it's making me very hesitant to do more with this game. This was, I didn't mind this one too much, but like I said, I'm kind of rambling a little bit on this one, where I'm going to have to give this one some thought. I didn't mind it too much, but the fact that it was taking 2 hours probably was because I'm still very slow and clunky learning the game, but the fact that it advertises a possible 2-hour runtime kind of bothers me, even for an entire day play. So it's making me very nervous about that. I've only had one session of Guadalcanal that ran anywhere even close to this long. That included all of the setup time. So once I'm into an existing campaign, say that 5 times fast, that time should go down theoretically. But, yeah. I'll have to give it some thought if I want to do more with this one. But, like I said, I'm rambling at this point. I'm probably gonna junk this setup. The purpose of this was just to push some pieces around, get the feel for the game. I wasn't starting a campaign out of this one right away. So, yeah, let's go ahead and wrap this video up. I'm starting to ramble a little bit. Later tonight, I'm going to have the 2009-10 feature game selection show for my hockey season replay that's starting in July. Tomorrow, for May the 4th, we will be doing a session of Star Wars Force and Destiny in the morning. In the afternoon, we'll probably have a game of some kind, but I'm not sure what that game will be yet. And yeah, it did roll out some interesting narrative. I'll have to see, once I get more of a feel for this game, what I want to do with the after-action report, the narrative aspect of that. And that's not the last time we're going to hear about narrative aspects for this list, I will assure you of that. Monday, we're going to be starting a new project on the channel that I'm very much looking forward to. We're going to be starting something I like to call Metal Gear Mondays, where I'm going to be starting a playthrough of Metal Gear Solid, the board game. I'll talk a little bit more about a side-by-side project I'm going to be doing along with that. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.